Hi, I'm Jennifer Bardot, and I'm your host today as we will be talking about grit. What does grit stand for? Growth, resilience, intention, and tenacity. And I'm excited to have Marianne Biangardi on our show today, as she was one of the contributing authors from our first book that I launched, Owning Your Grit, which was an international bestseller in 8 countries. So Marianne, who are you?
Well, thank you for having me today. I know you know who I am,
Yes.
as we do half of our networking together and half of our projects, and I'm always recruiting you for extra things that you probably don't have time for, but you're too nice to say no. So I am a connector. I'm first a mother, if a daughter. I love my family. I'm a very close family, and whenever we go anywhere, there's like 20 of us that go anywhere. But I also love my work family. So, and you're part of my inner circle and my work family. So I am a marketing and business development manager at Schmerschel Treloar and Company, which is the hardest name to say. So we're a full service accounting firm, any public accounting needs, but I don't do any accounting, which I tell everyone, of course. I've actually been banned from answering text questions. Nathan's like, don't do that again. So I'm an art major, which is interesting. How did I end up at an accounting firm? So after I graduated from college, like in the 90s, I had to get off of my parents' insurance. And my parents were asking every day, when are you going to get a job? And I was looking for the perfect art job. I was an art major. I like psychology, and I have a master's in organizational behavioral psychology. And I was just trying to find like the perfect job that would be a mix of both. So I took a temp job just to get off my parents' insurance, and I never left. So it was 20 plus years later, I'm doing the same thing, except I've grown in my role, which is part of that growth. So I started out as an admin, moved up from administration to marketing coordinator. And because of the art background, they let me do a lot of the brochures and the website. And then I started planning events, and I figured out that's actually what I'm the best at. So I really do like talking to people, connecting with people, as you know.
And you're an ultimate connector. I mean, you were seen as one of the top 100 people to know in St. Louis by a small business monthly.
So were you?
Yeah. But I mean, the community sees you as an ultimate connector as well. Yeah.
So that's why I guess we got along so well together. We both kind of have that same mission.
Yes. And so that leads me to, your chapter in Owning Your Grit. What was that like for you? Can you give us a little bit of like a Cliff Note version of your chapter for those that haven't read your story?
Sure. So it was interesting back in 2020, Jennifer had this idea, or you had this idea, about bringing women together in a community and sharing our stories. And then the idea that a lot of women had stayed home during COVID and maybe never returned to the workplace. And that was your whole purpose for this. And at first, I thought I was kind of confused at the project. I thought we were in a book club of some kind, and I didn't know we were writing the book. And it was just I was like, oh gosh, this is so overwhelming, but I've always wanted to write a book. This is awesome. I can't believe we're actually doing this. So I had no idea what to write about. I mean, I could have just started, from way back when, but of course, there's only 1,500 words. We had to pick a certain area, and it had to show the growth and the resilience, intention, and tenacity. So I chose what the hardest point in my entire life was when my daughter was diagnosed with HLH when she was 3 years old. It's an autoimmune disease, and I know you know this. I'm just telling the
Right.
audience.
For those that don't know. Yeah.
So it's short for hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis. And it was the scariest time in my life. I was first in denial. I thought it was, awesome. This is not cancer. Wow, this is great. But doctors actually told us it was worse. There was only a 30 to maybe 40% survival rate. And we had to seek treatment in Cincinnati. Children's Hospital here is a great hospital, but they're not the hub for the HLH research. So that was a very difficult time in my life. So I wanted to figure out how to build my story around that and document that, for our family, and then all the feelings that were going with that. So once I put it down on paper, I was trying to figure out how do I tie in the support. The support of the community was the most important part. Claire's great. I do want to say she's completely recovered. She's actually inspires me every day. And Wings of Hope had flown us up and back and forth to Cincinnati, and now it's kind of come full circle where she is volunteering with Wings of Hope, and we went to their gala the other night, and she is making me so proud. And hopefully, my goal would be for her to be on the board at some point, which would be amazing because they flew her as a child, and now she's like an ambassador for the program. She was in a promotional video for them. So I wanted to highlight, though, the most important part, the community. As soon as Claire was diagnosed, my neighbors came over. They cleaned my house. They said, what do you need? We had like repairmen over. She couldn't be around mold. We had to have like part of the house renovated and, the skylight fixed because there was mold, and plants because her immune system was going to be suppressed. And then my boss was amazing, Mark O'Donnell, my mentor, and then Jim Schmershel at Schmershel Trelord. Just the fact that, families first. This whole community came together. My best friend Maria had a trivia night for me, and I couldn't work for 2 years. So the money made from the trivia night literally helped pay our family's bills for a couple of years, while I wasn't working and taking Claire back and forth to treatment. So just the support of the community and how I grew, the resilience, of course, to hearing about Claire's situation, how to act and use this to, that kind of comes back to the Wings of Hope thing, how to help others. So, I don't know, just the intention, just being more intentional about how we're going to use this experience to help others. And then the tenacity, Claire is like my little hero. So just a tenacious little kid and what she taught me in that time.
Well, I love that you picked one of the hardest stories in your journey and shared that with the world so people can learn and see your strength. And maybe those that are really dealing with a difficult diagnosis will see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm grateful that you shared that story, because I'm sure that there's many out there that are struggling with difficult diagnoses and they don't even know where to begin. And here's this triumph story of your daughter, Claire, who has come full circle, and now she's an ambassador for an organization that supported her. And just the fact that you leaned on your community and they were there for you, that's inspiring. So what did you learn about yourself when you were, sharing your story as you reflected on your journey?
Well, I guess that anything's possible. Everybody says, oh, you're so strong. I didn't feel strong. I just had to do the next step in the right direction, just get through every day. I couldn't just break down and cry and crumple into a ball, because who would take care of Claire? So it's like you just keep going. I just learned I'm extremely resilient. I can do anything. If I can do something like that, if I can take care of my daughter and get her through this situation, if I can advocate for her, and we didn't have to do the bone marrow transplant, we were able to postpone that and seek treatment somewhere else, because that in itself can kill you. Just that I'm a stronger person than I thought.
Yeah. So I love how much you are intentional about advocating for your daughter and being intentional about her journey and pushing the limits, even though this was what was told to be the best outcome for the scenario. So what were you hoping the readers would gain from your story, from your chapter?
Well, I think whenever, in all these anthologies, if you, something in all these stories, there's 40 women in this book that share these journeys. One story is going to resonate with you, or maybe more, hopefully, but it could be the blueprint or roadmap for somebody else's journey. If they're like, how do I, what do I do next? What should I do? It's just my hope is that they will ask for help and, reach out to the community. And that support network is huge. We could not have done it. We literally could not have done it without help. So, and I'm always the kind of person who likes to do everything myself. I think actually that's probably what I learned the most, is that I can't control everything.
Right.
I thought I could control everything, but there's no way. And I was so worried from when they were little. I have a lot of anxiety, just worrying about, their pacifier fell on the ground. They're going to get a disease, or I could have never imagined this. So I think that actually calmed my anxiety after this. I'm like, I never imagined this. This worst possible thing happened, and she's okay. We are all okay. There's things that are out of your control, and you need to be able to ask for help.
And I think that's a really important lesson. And that's kind of the whole foundation of Grit community too. Just having that supportive network to lean on one another and learn how to ask for help. And I know you've taught me that because I try to take on a lot myself as well. So, and I appreciate that you support me and I support you. So is there anything else that you would like to share?
I mean, I think just the tips of advice would just be find your people. And like you've mentioned before, a personal board. I mean, outside of work and then with, in work as well, in your professional community as well as your neighborhood and your home life community. It's just those people are so important to you. Find your people, those whose visions align with yours, and it's just better together.
Absolutely. And I love that you already knew who your people were back then, and they're still with you right now by your side.
Yep.
That's phenomenal. So is there any words of wisdom that you would share with someone who has just gotten a hard diagnosis to help with that intentional mindset that you had to, push through to make sure your daughter was going to be healthy and get on the other side?
I think you do have to listen to the doctors, but you also have to be an advocate, and then, reach out to, I joined some groups online, which are very helpful. The HLH, Facebook groups, and then you could see what other people went through, which doctors they recommend. It's very important to get more information and not just stay in your lane. Okay, the doctor said do this. It's not just black and white. There are other options out there, and there's a whole community to help you.
That's great advice. And I hope if someone has gotten a hard diagnosis that they will do the same and reach out to their network, ask for support, and push the envelope and advocate for themselves or whoever they're trying to advocate for. So thank you so much for being on the show today. And it's been a pleasure to have you as a friend and as a guest on this talk show.
Thank you. This has been fun.